Colleagues, may we all rise for the Kings and Queens and Minister of Defense. And also the management of the TM school. Thank you so much. We may all be seated. Thank you very much, colleagues. Colleagues that are outside, may you please come into the venue so that we may begin. If there are any colleagues outside, my colleagues should help me in terms of those colleagues that are outside. Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning. Abushe, Ndemachero, Tobe, Moloe, Sanbona, Dumela, Locha. Did I leave anyone out? More, yeah. Prof. Felthazen is there. He's raising his head. Say, hey, you left me. Yes. Colleagues, my name is McDonald Ramala. I'm going to be your program director for today. Now in the podium, in fact, before we begin, may we just take 2-3 minutes, moment of just meditation before we begin. Just meditation and then we begin. Thank you. Thank you very much. Like I said before, I'm going to be your program director for today. My name is McDonald Ramala. I'm from the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. I happen to be the project leader of a project that is responsible for what is happening here. And I'm also based at the College of Law of this beautiful university of ours, the only university of the land, South Africa. Thank you. So in the podium, and as per the program that I have, I'm going to ask Prof. Edith Paswana to come and take a seat in the front. Thank you, Prof. And then along Prof. Paswana, I'm going to ask our Queen Mojaji, to come and take a seat in the front as well. And then I'll also request Afrika David Letwalo to come to the front as well. Afrika David Letwalo. And then last but not least, I'm going to ask Inkosi Pategile Holomesa, Dilizinta, to come and have a seat in the front as well. Then we begin. Is everyone okay? Yeah, because I'm looking at you, it's like you look scared. Feel. Yeah, like you are home. You are in the University of the land, and then the leaders of the land are here, so feel free. The facilities, you know, nature doesn't negotiate, so the facilities, immediately when you get out, you take an immediate right, and then you find the ladies on the right, and then you find the gents on the left. And then if there's anyone who would not be feeling well for one or other reason, we have a clinic. It's in Cas van Vieren building. So you just come to me, and then I'm the runner. Yeah, they hire me to do this job so that I can run around and bother people. I remember Hoshiaga here, Patudi. He knows that I call 100 times and send messages and stuff. So the clinic is on the other side. And then if there's any sort of emergency that may want us to have an assembly, the assembly point is in front of the building, and then the security personnel will escort us there. And then to my honored guests, where you were sitting this morning, that's where you go. Whenever there's a break, Queen, that's where you go back, and then there will be people who are going to escort you. Let's begin. Prof. Paswan, please come and do the welcoming remarks. And may we give Prof. Paswan a warm round of applause, please.
Program Director, Mr. McDonald Rammala, let me thank you for the opportunity and take this moment on behalf of the Chancellor of the University of South Africa, His Excellency Dr. Thabo Mbeki, and also on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of the University of South Africa, Professor Puleng Lenkabula. Let me acknowledge and observe the protocol that I have been handed. Honorable Minister of Defense, Mayor Ng Motshekga, Advocate Caroline Letswalo from the Pan-African Bar Association of South Africa, Dr. Genevieve James, Deputy Director, UNISA's Institutional Division for Community Engagement and Outreach. Also acknowledge Inkosi Thandisizwe Mpungose, Kgoshi Nchaupe Makapan III, Kgoshi Morakuludi Masibi, Her Royal Highness Princess Nikiwe Bam, Prince Shabutle Anthony Muramocha Maloka, Kgoshi Kgopujo Phala, Phatlha Hlabirwa, Queen Manyaku Thulari Legana Batho II Tlhapua Gadia Phahle, Kgoshi Gadi Malegobe IV Masrumule, Mrs. Thandi Ramcwana, Freedom Park Heritage Site and Museum, Pretoria, Mr. Swizwe Nkosi, NRF SASTA, Ms. Tembisile Mahua, Her Majesty Queen Masalanabo Mujaji VII, Queen Manyaku Thulari Legana Batho II Tlhapua Gadia Phahle, distinguished guests, academics, partners, students, and friends, good morning. I am uncomfortable because I have been given this protocol, but I have seen on the program that we have Inkosi Patekile Holomisa, Dilizindaba. And my apologies because I see the program that, the table of precedence that I have I don't see his name, but on the program I have seen it. And I just want to acknowledge him in a very special way. And if I have inadvertently left any of our dignitaries, please nudge me, Program Director, during the proceedings, because this is not intentional. I work with what I have been given. Ke šoma ka se ke se filweng. Ga eba ke a le bolela le lena ga botse goba ga ke a amogela ba bangwe, a se ka maikemišetšo. Ke fela gore ke bereka ka lephepha le ke le filwego. Ka nako e dumela ke tla boa gape ke tle ke le amogele ka tshwanelo. Re a leboga. My job here is a small one, and as I was saying, you see, this thing of protocol, it's a Western thing. And that's why I was saying we have our African ways of protocol. And in the holding rooms where we were, I was just saying to the dignitaries that I was sitting with, and I was saying to them, this school must develop a curriculum that is going to change protocol and actually transform it in such a way that it is going to include the African way, because many people don't know it. How do you greet Mahoshi? How do we give them the respect that they acknowledge? Because the protocol that we teach here at the school is DERCO protocol. How we work with governments and this modern way of governing. And we don't know our own ways of doing things. And I have tasked the curriculum developer for the training to actually include ways of doing protocol the African way as well. And I think it's going to be one. I thought you will clap hands for that. Because for a long time, Africans have been, African ways of knowing, African ways of doing things were in the margin. And it is about time that we do things our way as well. It is my honor to welcome you to the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs, a home of African thought, progressive leadership, and transformative scholarship. Today we gather not only to mark the beginning of a new way of doing things, the African way, but to reaffirm our shared commitment to building an Africa that is peaceful, prosperous, and confidently engaged with the world. The TM School was founded on a simple yet profound conviction that Africa's renewal will be driven by Africans who think, who act ethically, and who lead with courage. In the spirit of President Thabo Mbeki's vision of an African Renaissance, this institution stands as a space where ideas meet action, where history informs policy, and where public servants, scholars, and leaders are shaped for the challenges of the 21st century. Here, we interrogate our past, understand our present, and design solutions for our collective futures. We welcome you to the Thabo Mbeki School on this very special day, and here you are at a school that has been exceptional even from its foundation, which teaches students to be critical about Africa's place about Africa's place in global affairs, to engage with complexities of governance, and to serve with integrity. To all our speakers, our dignitaries, as well as our audience, we are very grateful that you are here, that you accepted our invitation, and without your steadfast dedication to the mission of this school, this day would not have been possible. And I'm aware that this is the second day of the Lekgotla la Batho, which is organized under the theme Revisiting the Custodians of African Indigenous Laws in the context of 31 years of democracy. And ladies and gentlemen, you know democracy is highly contested in our country by many, because people look at what democracy means for them and begin to feel like it has not brought them any goods. And you are the co-constructor of our governance systems in this country. A big majority of our people are under your leadership. And we know some of the conditions of our people and where they live are not conducive. And therefore, as the leadership of these communities, it is important that we always meet together and dialogue on how do we improve the living conditions of our people out there, so that we can be able to influence policy and strengthen this democracy, and also as well as advancing Pan-African cooperation as we continue to build a capable state across our continent. And I am very pleased that we have this community, and this community also needs to be able to engage with other traditional leaders outside of South Africa and be able to strengthen the continent as a whole. And this morning, as I welcome you as well, I'm aware that this Lekgotla on African Traditional Leadership, the law and democracy, is based on the idea that the law and democracy have always been and are about the people. Regardless of their status in broader society, we know that it is always about people, people, people. And African traditional leaders are entitled to a dignified and respected role, which enables them to take their place and make their contribution towards building a new democratic South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I am also coming from a home where my family and my ancestors happens to be the leaders, the Kekana ba Moletlane Zibediela. And I have grown up to see how people in the community respect the leadership of our people, or the family was leading. And this was under, when I was growing up, it was under very difficult conditions of apartheid. There were no incentives for my family, but they did the job with excellence. The only incentives I could say they were able to receive is when people were coming from Johannesburg, Pretoria, and coming to say hello to our grandfather with a bottle of whiskey, with some meat, with things that they were bringing for him. Someone will just buy him a shirt. There was no salary whatsoever from the government, because they were not recognizing that leadership. They were working with the leadership because when they want people or messages to the community, they know the first place to go, it was there. But they were not recognized in terms of incentives. And I am very grateful to live in South Africa today where we have COCTA that has actually worked towards recognizing the leadership of our traditional leaders. And I have grown up sitting, listening. And maybe I knew things I was too young to know, because community disputes, family disputes were being resolved in our yards. And you could hear when people were, so you grow up listening to this and you grow before your time. And maybe it's not a mistake that I'm a professor today, because I knew things that I was not supposed to know. So, and I have seen these communities or traditional leaders building families, not just communities, families, starting with the basic unit, advocating that we have water. At some point, there was no water in the community, but they made sure that there is one borehole pump for the whole community at some point, because before I was born, apparently they were taking water from the rivers. So this leadership, there is no way we can say we exist without it. This is the cornerstone, the pillar of our communities. And it is for these reasons that we want to acknowledge this kind of leadership as part of our constitutional democracy. And I wish the minister, I saw him at the summit, at the G20 summit, Honorable Masemola, the deputy minister, should have been here, because she said, oh, you have this thing and I'm bound here. I wanted to be also there. But he is sending his greetings to all of you, and for the support. He's also urging us to be able to develop these short learning programs so that we can be able to do this kind of knowledge exchanges, because I don't want to call it training. We can't train you. You know better than us. There's a lot from you that we don't know, that you are doing in the communities, in your leadership as well. And we want to acknowledge all of you, and we welcome you to the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. We welcome you to this gathering of minds and visionaries. May our discussions today inspire action, deep understanding, and strengthen our resolve to shape a better Africa and a better world. Le amorelwa, le amkelekile, and ons is welkom. Prof. Veldhuizen, is it ons is welkom? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to the Executive Dean of the TM School. Thank you. Yeah, on my program, I'm going to move things a bit. Are you still okay? So I'm going to call all of you colleagues. And I stand on protocol, because today, whether you like it or not, you are working with me. This is all that you have to work with. Thank you. So on the next item in terms of my agenda, I'm going to humbly request Her Majesty Queen Masala Nabo Mojaj to come and give her address. May we please give her a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Program Director, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you for the honor of addressing this dialogue. I extend my sincere gratitude to the Thabo Mbeki Foundation and the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs for inviting the Balobedu Nation to take part in this important national reflection. For us, it's not merely an invitation, it is a recognition of our identity, our ancestral heritage, and our rightful place in shaping the future of indigenous law, traditional governance in South Africa. We are deeply grateful for the formal restoration of the Balobedu Queenship after many years of downgrade and marginalization and displacement. This historic decision restored dignity to our people, affirmed justice, and corrected the long-standing historical injustice. It is not symbolic, but a powerful message that every nation, no matter how long it has been sidelined, deserves fairness and equality. We also extend heartfelt gratitude to His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa for recognizing me as the born heir of the Balobedu Nation. In line with our customs, tradition, and hereditary lineage, his actions reflect respect for African indigenous laws, not as a relic of the past, but a living system that continues to shape millions of lives in our democracy. The Balobedu Queenship is one of the oldest, most reserved matriarchal institute of African continent. For centuries, women have led the Balobedu nation with authority, wisdom, diplomacy, and deep spiritual responsibility. Women have always led in Africa as custodians of land, healers, advisors, warriors, diplomats, and protectors of community. This queenship stands as evidence that female leadership is not new, not modern, and not imposed. It is ancestral, it is African, and it is part of who we are. Today, as the world searches for ethical and compassionate and inclusive leadership models, Africa must look within. The matriarchal leadership of Balobedu offers a governance tradition rooted in balance, justice, and nurturing, and community uplift. Given my age, the question of young leaders and intergenerational leadership is close to my heart. The older generation provides historical context and unsurpassed wisdom. Young generation AMA 2000 bring disruptive ideas, technological solutions, and forces on futures ordained leadership. We are living in the best of times as we navigate intergenerational era. Empowering women is indeed not a favor. It is a restoration of an ancient African truth. The nation prospers when women lead. Born heirs carry lifelong responsibilities from a tender age, women in particular. They face pressure, vulnerabilities, opposition that many do not see. Government must review whether legislation significantly protects their dignity, well-being, and society security. And the law is not enough, it must be strengthened. In my own life, God placed a royal matriarch who protected me from infancy, my late grandmother, Miss Julia Mabale Mukoto, and took me into her arms when I was only 6 months old. She raised my mother, she raised my uncle, and with the same unwavering love and strength, she raised me. She protected me and protected stability, discipline, identity, and cultural grounding during the years. I lived away from the royal house. For reasons known to people and documented in history, the theme of today's Lekgotla, revisiting the custodian of African indigenous laws after 31 years of democracy. It is both timely and necessary. Indigenous laws is not outdated. It is not secondary, and it is not symbolic. It is a living system that continues to guide millions of households, family structures, land allocation, dispute resolution, and community governments, cultural identity, and moral values. The Constitution affirms that the authority of traditional leaders and customary laws, the Traditional and Khoisan Leader Act, strengthens these foundations. Customary succession is not determined by popularity or competition, as it is sacred language roots from cultural order. Traditional leadership does not exist outside democracy. It strengthens democracy by grounding leadership in identity, community, and continuously. The Balobedu nation humbly emphasizes the importance of recognizing Klovedu as one of its official languages. It is one of African's ancient languages. It carries our oral tradition, our diplomacy, our history, our praise, poetry, and our identity, and our worldview. We appreciate the work that has been begun begun, but we request that the process must be sped up. Our children must grow up learning, dreaming, and expressing themselves in the language that their ancestors spoke. Recognizing Kulobedi is not linguistic. It is a cultural healing and national restoration. A democracy does not uplift all its community, rural people in particular, is incomplete. Villages across South Africa, Bolobedu, Sekhukhune, Vembe, parts of KZN, the Eastern Cape, and the Northwest, and more, continue to face inequality in water access, sanitation, infrastructure, education, and internet connectivity. Economic opportunity. The identity of the nation is not measured by its skyscrapers. It is measured by the living condition of its villages. Traditional authorities do not only preserve culture, they are governance structures rooted in the daily reality of communities. Municipalities, ward councils, and national departments must work hand in hand with traditional leaders for development that is inclusive and sustainable. As a young person, sports and culture is not entertainment. It is a tool required for nation building. It builds character, discipline, and purpose and hope. Every rural school deserves a functional sports facility, youth development, and must be a national priority. On alcohol and substance abuse, in many rural communities, liquor outlets multiply faster than youth centers, libraries, and sports fields. These threaten families and youth well-being. Municipalities must issue licenses responsibly, enforce distance from schools, and consult with traditional leaders, and prioritize community safety and peace of mind over the profit. On women and young girls' well-being, education and support on matters of reproductive system rights and health should be highly valued, that teenage pregnancy can be eliminated. I think on the other matter requiring attention is joining partnerships between government and traditional leaders and fighting against gender-based violence and protecting women and children against violence. On youth criminality and moral degeneration are matters of great concern, equally need strong partnerships between government and traditional leaders and communities. Traditional leaders should empowered to contribute meaningfully to development, then fairness and equality are needed on how recognized kinships and queenships are supported nationally. This is not a call for privilege, it's a call for for capacity to serve. Tobel.
Thank you, Noria Raleboch. At this stage, colleagues, I think it's important. I was talking to Tabisang. This was once an idea. This whole thing was once an idea. Khoshima Kapan is here. And then this idea, when I sat down with Khoshima Kapan, and then it worked. And this works because it was once an idea. There was an idea needed for a community project with UNIS. Other colleagues chose, different fields. Then I said, I'm going to work with kings and queens and their traditional courts. Sizwe from the NRF, also SASST, he's here. They were the first ones to say there's something in this idea. And then I must say that, Prof, had it not been for this project, then I wouldn't be working at UNISA today. It was difficult for UNISA to fire me because I had an idea that was working. So I'm grateful to everyone. It's not only Khoshima Kapan, Khoshima Sip, many others that I've engaged with. And it's expanding. In this room alone, you have almost all the 9 provinces in this room alone. And not with an exorbitant budget, and no. So I'm very much happy. And then please, colleagues, whenever there's any dignitary that I need to acknowledge, let me know. I received a message we must acknowledge Inkosi Makodongo Mahlangu of the Ndebele Kingdom. And Abezit, you are acknowledged. You are acknowledged. So whenever there's anyone that I must acknowledge, please just pull me aside or just raise your hand and then I'll come running to you. And then I must also acknowledge Princess Pritim Ngube from Amangube in KwaZulu-Natal province. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So this also, it's also an encouragement that if you have an idea, that put it to work. Put it to work. If you have an idea, put it to work. And now I'm looking at this project, I'm thinking, okay, this thing is taken away from me, slowly but surely. But I'm happy about that. I started this thing when I was like, what, 25? Now I'm 36. I'm an old man. Yes. Moving on right along. Are we still okay? I've noticed that the colleagues outside, please help us with the aircon. Yeah, it's a bit hot in here. Yeah, help us with the aircon. And then also the colleagues outside, bring me bottles of water for our speakers in the front, please. And then without wasting any time. And I see that Inkosi Thandisizwe Mpungose just walked into the room from Eshowe in KZN. Inkosi, you're welcome. And thank you once more to our Queen for such a moving speech. Thank you so much. We are inspired. And then I must also just put it on record that the Queen, alongside the Minister of Defense, will be leaving early as there are other engagements. But we are grateful that, Minister, you came here. In fact, the only minister now in this. So thank you so much, and Queen, thank you so much. And then I'll keep on bothering that man so that I can get to, to this side of the family. And thank you so much, Tabi-san. Colleagues, and then moving on along, I'm going to ask Moafrika David Letsoalo to come and give his address. Moafrika, please come onto the podium. A warm round of applause, colleagues.
Thank you, Program Director McDonald Rammala. Gichugile o ka nka se kgone go tšwela pele ka polelo ya ka gore go na le kgoši ya ka mo e boletše pele ga ka go a kgonega. So but I will try and break whatever concern that is. But I want to thank you again, Program Director Rammala. I want to agree with you before I could even proceed to say that you have really done very, very well in this project. And then when you said it started with an idea and that UNISA found it difficult to fire you, you forgot to mention that I actually appointed you. So it was difficult not to appoint him for the reasons that he has indicated. So well done, McDonald. I'm not going to spoil anything. I just want to observe the protocol that has already been established by my leader, my line manager, my boss, Professor Paswana. I am led by her, and Ebiliki Abusher. And also to acknowledge my colleagues in the TM school, particularly in the management. Professor Miller, I can see him here, and colleague in the DCO, Professor Dr. Genevieve James. I'm mentioning this because this project, the issue of community engagement, is highly supported by her office, and also in the school is getting its support, remarkable support from the executive dean. Tuna ya chirelo jo ya naga ya gaisho me enji motsere re le lebo a shitba ba boletši a ke nya go bolela ka magoši ke tla roma McDonald gore a ntumeditše magoši ka moka. I want to confirm that I am indeed an African, as MacDonald said. And I don't understand, and I will learn when people say blacks in general, and African in particular. I don't understand that one. But I still have to learn how it came about. And Ngwagwalebo, Kabo Zani, Kiverekilo Gwaga Mujaji. So that is why Gerekina Logo to Melanyana. Maragana Mutavino. I also want to confirm that I am indeed the director responsible for community engagement in the TM school, as my leader has indicated. Engaged scholarship in the university is meant to bring the university closer to communities to ensure transformative and transformational agenda in as far as knowledge construction and scholarship is concerned. In this way, the university should never be an ivory tower, but a partner with communities as sites of authentic knowledge in the creation of knowledge to develop our society. You cannot develop society with irrelevant knowledge and tools. The mandate of community engagement is in line with the vision and mission of UNISA, of the African University shaping futures in the service of humanity. Once again, we have to acknowledge the work of the DCO in this respect, because it pursues this mission. So the vision of the TM School of solving complex problems in Africa and beyond, and that of UNISA, which I've just indicated, underline the essence of engaged scholarship. I cannot avoid the reality that universities are in their nature as European constructs, disconnected from society as ivory towers, as I've indicated, and also the relics of irrelevance. The practice of community engagement is one of the measures meant to address this embarrassing situation. It is therefore argued that universities should be community engaged. And this, what is happening today, is a demonstration of this aspiration that universities must be community engaged. So yesterday, I made the point that as an African, I believe that Africa belongs to Africans, which point forces me to look at moments such as this one we have today from the panoramic view of liberation or decolonization. It is impossible to engage in any discourse about Ubukosi or Bohoshi without being reminded of the painful history of the invasion of Africa by white people and the continued violation and assault on African systems by the accolades and stooges of neo-colonialists and neo-imperialists in the so-called post-colonial dispensations and the post-1994 dispensation in South Africa. I made reference to a serious Pan-Africanist scholar, Madam Dean Chancellor Williams, who made the point that as members of a race under perpetual siege and fighting an almost invisible war for survival, we dare not follow in the footsteps of the master. It is this sentiment that influences our reaction, attitude, mentality, and purpose of determining what to do now. I do not wish to belabor the lingering impact of colonial conquest on our lives, except to once again register the painful reality that this has captured our land through the bullet. It has captured our minds through the knowledge systems, and our hearts through spiritual conquest. And this has made us a conquered people, as I've said even yesterday. Some of the symptoms of a conquered people is that a conquered people sees itself through the lens of the conqueror, whether consciously or unconsciously. A conquered people hates itself, the issue of self-hate. When you start hating yourself, you must know that you are a conquered person. And you valorize and you praise your conqueror. It cannot feed itself. That is, a conquered people cannot feed itself. How do you feed yourself when you don't have a land? And most tragically, a conquered people participates in its own oppression or conquest. The state and status of Ubukhosi or Bohoshi and how it has been treated for many, many times and many years and since time immemorial, even by the so-called black government post-1994, is a sound evidential proof of this assertion. The marginalization and undermining continues unabated, as if democracy is a panacea of good governance. And it's not. There's a lot of wrong things happening under democracy. Dilo tša go tšhoša, le a di bona le mo di-TV. So, however, as Professor Persson has indicated earlier on about the fact that democracy is contested, democracy has been contested for many years. So, democracy, in fact, today in Africa and all over the world has shown us flames. It has sort of embedded in it injustice, corruption, deaths, conflicts, wars. Essentially, democracy has proven to be a costly project in many respects. It costs us money, it costs us our lives, it costs us our health, and so on and so on. Above all, it humiliates us. So the Constitution of South Africa, unfortunately, is a powerful instrument that imposes democracy and European values. Yesterday, we were given constitutions, copies of the Constitution. Your Section 2, it dictates that. The Section 2 says, the Constitution is the supreme law of the Republic. Law or conduct inconsistent with it is invalid, and the obligations imposed by it must be, by such invalid act, it should be nullified. So you can just read that Section 2. So, as I said, democracy has its own problems. I do not think that there is any measure, and I want to be honest with you, I do not think that there is any measure that can change this situation unless we do something drastic about this supreme Eurocentric constitution. The idea that the variations and regulations of the Traditional Court Act, whether you call it Traditional Court Act and Khoisan Act or whatever, for as long as you don't change this constitution, nothing will change. I want to repeat, the idea that the variations and regulations of the Traditional Court Act will improve the state and status of Ubukhosi or Bohoshi will not fly for as long as the Constitution remains the supreme law of the Republic. Parliaments are platforms of democracy and politicians. Parliaments are not platforms for our indigenous leadership. Talk of any act that is a statute or act of parliament suggests that we continue to support or subject ourselves to Eurocentric constructs. In other words, we continue to subject Ubukhosi or Bohoshi to a Eurocentric forum. So there are contradictions that I want to indicate briefly, because I really do not want to get into a lot of submissions, because there's a lot of important things that the speakers on the program today will share with you. One of the contradictions that I want to refer to is the topsy-turvy situation where those who are supposed to be outside are inside, and those who are supposed to be inside are outside. In other words, those who are supposed to be leaders are made to be followers, and those who are supposed to be followers, that is commoners, are now leaders. Number two, the issue of this term. Just relax. Don't. I find it extremely very, very harrowing, painful to see oppressed people singing the triumphant songs of their conquerors. Imagine a leader. I believe this thing. It's something that is hard for me to comprehend. Number 3, the contradiction of when people in democracy say that Bohoshi is not proper, it is like as if you are a monarch. But the European systems continue to borrow from Bohoshi and create a monarch in the president. If you look at the irony of a monarch created by democracy through the constitution, you look at the powers of the president. When I'm saying the president, I'm not the one, but the president as an office in this constitutional state. Because the president can do anything. He appoints judges, magistrates, Chapter 9 institutions, everyone, including the Barbanyaka who investigate. They can't investigate you until the president authorizes. And then the National Director of Public Prosecutions, whose power is to decide whether to charge you or not, that person is appointed by a president. So that is Kehosh. And then the Constitution gives him or her power to, in using his own prerogative, to assemble his or her own Lekgotla, which is a cabinet. So what's the difference there? So I just wanted to show the kind of hypocrisy that we are living with, where Bohoshi is being denigrated, but people continue to create their own Bohoshi in a constitutional or democratic space. The other contradiction, we are talking about Mahoshi or Amakosi as landless landowners. Mahoshi, Amakosi, for me, in this situation, you are landless landowners. So that you are landowners by nickname. Living Mabu, but that's just a nickname. That is what McDonald was saying yesterday, that you may have your own land, but just check whether you have rights to the minerals and rights to the water that runs in your own space. But I would like to say something here about how complacent we are about land ownership. Without wasting much time, I need to say this thing. I had the privilege of visiting Burkina Faso last year, and what impressed me is that every household has got a piece of land, and they use it to sustain themselves. And the surplus is used to sell, for instance, in Ouagadougou and other Bobo Dioulasse and other places. That thing, but when I grew up, I have this difficult question for Mahoshi Arena, our leaders in the villages. The way I see it, I'm not saying it's going to be like that. This government is not going to sustain these social grants. It's my view. I can tell you, I don't think this is going to be sustained. Let us assume that it's not going to happen, or it's not going to be sustained. How will our people sustain themselves? Because we don't even have, as Hosh, your people don't even have places where they plow and to depend on. I'm just giving you that homework to say, if you stop social grants, if our government does not afford, how will we proceed in our villages? Unemployment and poverty and so on and so on. I hate to imagine. So we must just appreciate the fact that we have a government at the moment that is able to give us those social grants. But I have a sense Seeing how things are going and how certain departments are really struggling. Yeah. Then the other point is that what is happening in the villages, in your own land as Mahoshi, where you have Pakistani, Bangladesh, dominating the space and leadership. When we grew up, we had that conventional, traditional shop owner in the village. However, we don't have those. So even our youth growing up, they don't have the idea that a black person can own a shop. I was touched yesterday with Hoshima Sibi talking about the issue of the malls. Personally, I don't like malls because malls, the owner give a people of shop right and all that. Those are not black people. I'll support malls if we have a mall of black people, as if it's a marketplace, where the shop is kicha. And the little shop is the spaza shop is Pakistan and Bangladesh. I would wish for government to support young people to be able to run these spaza shops as well. Because run a spaza shop is not a big thing. You just go and buy stuff, make a markup, then you sell. Our kids start from grade R and up to grade 12. Are you saying Uraba change? I once raised this with Hoshi Moroboy. Kinna Hoshi, Kinna Let's Chap. In my area, high school and all that. And those kids, then they do nothing. Are you saying those kids who pass matric, how about the change? So they need to be supported by owning the shop or the spaza shop, but stock, then river support. I want to mention something else which says that the criticism that is leveled against Mahoshi, as if they are corrupt, they don't know what they're doing or that. I'm just happy that what we have seen today, for instance, where a president is alleged, I don't know whether it's true, is alleged to have hidden millions of dollars under mattress. I'm just happy that those millions were not found a traditional or a hoshi. Imagine what damage that would have been. So democracy has had a situation where money is found under the mattress of democratic leaders. I'm just happy for Cheletela. I agree with the mattress. Hoshi. I hate to imagine in this space. You will have to bank. Then the next point that I want to make is that of what we refer to as the government of national unity. Program director, that thing is not about uniting the nation. It's about uniting politicians or political parties at national level to share the positions and power among themselves. So if it's about the nation, where are Mahoshi in that equation? Actually, they will be building the nation, uniting the nation, but they're not there. But during elections, politicians go to the Mahoshi to say, no, want to, those kind of things. But when it's the time to establish a government of national unity, they're not going to the Mahoshi to ask for it. We are in this situation. What do you say? But that's another story. So the other contradiction is the contradiction of white wealth and black poverty. We need to recognize that every white man's wealth is the result of a black man's sweat. These are the consequences of slavery, colonization, imperialism, global capitalism, and apartheid. Yesterday, I referred to what Chancellor Williams said in this respect, and I want to quote again. The extent to which European wealth and power were derived directly from Africa and the nature and philosophy of a European education that are shaping and determining the mentality of Africans is a serious contradiction that we should not lose sight of. Beng le humo e leng ma-Africa ke bona ba dirileng gore makgowa a be le tšhelete e ntši ba kgone le go aga di-university tše le gore maabane ba re di boka ba be le dipolasa bjalo bjalo is the sweat of an African. So now that democracy is finally naked, democracy has been undressed, democracy, and our politicians have been exposed, what should be done next? And I think it is forums such as this that will consider the way out of this. And then, Samatomo, Amakosi, help to unite African people. I think Amakosi and Mahoshi can unite African people. Number two, how can Amakosi and black communities generally mobilize for a big Lekgotla? Other people may say national dialogue, but I'm just a big Lekgotla of Amakosi to change this constitution. And number three, to empower African communities on the implementation of their own indigenous systems, not to implement foreign law. Because even our institutions, they are cousins of other European or Eurocentric institutions like churches, the courts, and parliaments. So yesterday I spoke about the relationship between these various institutions and how they collaborated in the conquest and conquering of Africa. Prof. Pasana made a very, very interesting point, which I have here, about taking these experiences to other African countries. So we failed to draw lessons from other countries. For instance, in Lesotho, I don't know whether you are aware, in Lesotho there is the law of Basotho. They called the laws of Lerotodi. So these laws came after King Lerotodi. And in Lesotho, Morena, Khoshi, is respected the same way, if not even better, than what we're referring to Professor earlier on. And earlier on, I forgot to tell you that when we grew up under Bantustan leadership, Yabo Patudi, Mahoshi na atlompiwa. I'm not saying it was a better thing, but to be honest with you, Mahoshi na atlompiwa, gudu. There was a close, good cooperation between the government and Mahoshi. And I kept asking myself, program director, to say, imagine if we had somebody like, I'm sorry to say, Maharo Mushu Levosio, Sataxapolero, if you were the premier of Limpopo, Chidi, Chidi Balugisheji. Let's say, I'm just dreaming. So let's say we have Chidi as the premier of Limpopo. During those times, they had nothing. They had a hostile apartheid government. But with the little they had, they did something. I'm not saying anything else, but I'm just saying that. But I don't know how African communities deal with this issue of witchcraft. How do you handle them? Because the Western law does not allow you to deal with those issues because what they call the Suppression of Witchcraft Act. Then in Zimbabwe in 2006, they decided to say, no, we abolish this thing, the British law. So in Zimbabwe, they changed the system to accommodate evidence from sangomas and witches and all that. And in fact, in court, Mulwe ba musek, and the Afrikan wa dumela. Ari ke nnete ke loile ene ke a gopela tshwarelo. Then ba mo kweba 10 years, 15 years, and so on and so on. But in South Africa, no. But this is the contradiction. This is the contradiction that we have. But I think this is the thing that we have to deal with. But finally, as I sit down, I want to raise something. I feel that there's an irony, and even when Mahoshi talk about South Africa, and I don't know whether you know that South Africa is a white man's construct. There was no South Africa until white people created it in 1852 as the Boere Republic, or the South African Republic. And then this republic ended in 1902, but Maburu came back and established it in 1910 as the Union of South Africa. And then in 1960, by change, the Republic of South Africa. In 1994, we continued to do this white thing. But before then, Nagayama Hoshiarina, it was not in terms of South Africa, a province, and this is what Hoshi Masiba was saying earlier on about the Berlin Conference. It's not divided, and this is what is happening even in the Limpopo, where people are just divided because of this thing, South Africa. So he could Hoshi Mzansi, Mzansi, South Africa, in our way, like a Suzula. So I want to fight for a democratic South Africa.
Thank you very much, Africa David Letwa. We will moving on right along, and then we will go to the address by Inkosi Pategile Holomisa. Dilizentaba, please.
Izolo, I was dominated by abantu baseLimpopo. Bethetha ulwimi lwabo. Mane nisiva nje phana pha. So it's my time now to take revenge. Ndithethe isiXhosa. But then again, it seems as if there are no people from the Eastern Cape here. So what are you supposed to do when Inkosi gets up to speak? Oh, teka nilikhona ichipa lapha eGauteng elisasibambileyo isiXhosa. Program Director, Majesties, Queen Mujaji and Queen Tulare, Your Royal Highnesses, our traditional leaders of our various tribes, leadership of the University of South Africa, particularly the Thabo Mbeki School of African School of Public and International Affairs, our host, Sizwe Sakuthi. Normally, when you are acknowledging a traditional leader, especially the senior most ones being the monarchs, that is the kings and the queens. You've covered everybody. Because your identity as an African person, you derive it from the land from which you come, you were born, the rivers from which you get water, the forests from which you get firewood, building material, and animals. And importantly, from the identity of your king or queen or prince. So no one should feel excluded, especially if you live in an African country where not a single piece of land does not belong to any traditional leadership. And as genoba sisayazi naloo nto, singathi abanye bayothuka uba ndingatsho njani. Having been born in Soweto, in any other township, when I don't have any traditional leader, someone comes and says, even in Soweto, is land that belongs to traditional leadership. I have been encouraged by Her Majesty Queen Mujaji when she said African law is a living phenomenon. I'm paraphrasing what she said. It's not a relic of the past. It's a living heritage. And the people responsible for its nurturing, promotion, maintenance are the traditional leaders. So the challenge therefore that I want to give to the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs is that they must use the white man's knowledge that has been distilled in their minds to find a way of allowing African traditional leaders to express themselves in the languages of their people so that we can understand each other. Masisazi siswazi, singabapedi sisazi iSpedi kanye isiLobedu, singabantu abathetha isiXhosa, singaphindi sibopheleleke kule nto ithethwa ngulitswalo of being in continual capture, so that for you to understand me, I have to speak to the person responsible for our disempowerment, the language of the people who are responsible for our disempowerment. Oh, because some of the messages that reside in our languages get lost in translation. So she said, our language, our laws are not archaic, and therefore I am going to be speaking to you on that understanding. I will not try to defend and justify our way of life so that the people don't understand it. What is important is for us here as traditional leaders to understand what is expected of us by ourselves and by our people, but most importantly by our ancestors, because the positions we hold have been bestowed on us by our ancestors. We carry responsibilities to ensure that our ancestors remain happy where they are, satisfied that we are not betraying the cause. Our mandate is from our ancestors, while the mandate of politicians is from voters. So which is more important between a mandate from ancestors and a mandate from the voters. We've been voted already by our ancestors in these positions, and our responsibilities are clear. I know that we complain about the Constitution justifiably, because the Constitution was made in the absence of traditional leaders. Something abominable happened at Codesa, to the extent that Codesa 1 and Codesa 2 collapsed because the ANC and the National Party government refused to allow traditional leaders to participate in those discussions, those negotiations. The National Party said, oh, well, you do have the homeland political parties that are dominated by traditional leaders, so you are represented. And then they said, ANC said, oh, well, we do represent you, because you are a broad church that accommodates everyone. You are leading the liberation struggle. Therefore, there's no real need for traditional leaders to be there. As I say, the negotiations collapsed, and later they emerged as what was loosely called multi-party talks, Kempton Park multi-party talks. At that stage, we were then invited as traditional leaders to come and participate. And these days, we are free to say whatever we want to say openly, because we are in a democracy. It was largely because the Inkatha Freedom Party leadership insisted that there must be a delegation of Inkatha Freedom Party, the party, just like all the other political parties. And then there must be a delegation of the KwaZulu government. And then there must be a delegation of the king of AmaZulu. And then there must be a delegation of Amakhosi, traditional leaders of KwaZulu. Can you imagine that kind of delegation? Which would mean then that all the other kings must make the same demands. But then they came up with a compromise that says, no, there must be a delegation of traditional leaders, about 5 or so, from Transvaal, from Natal, from the Cape Province, and from the Orange Free State. That's when we managed to come in having some. So as a result, the interim constitution, as was said by one of the speakers yesterday, was far better than the final constitution of 1996 in terms of giving some recognition, even if very grudgingly, of the institution of traditional leadership. Now, when the Constituent Assembly, the one that was tasked to draft the final constitution, said the houses of traditional leaders were supposed to represent traditional leadership were not created. We know who's responsible for creating structures is government of the time. It was, the National House was created only after 1996, when the Constitution had been adopted. So there was no opportunity, therefore, for the indigenous and original rulers of the country to participate in the formulation of the Constitution. So, as a result, it was watered down. That's why we are complaining about our being excluded and undermined by this Constitution. Now, there was an opportunity again for people who felt that the Constitution that was to be adopted would fall short of addressing all the concerns of the people of South Africa. So they must come to the Constitutional Court and apply for and oppose the certification of the final Constitution on the grounds, among others, that the final constitution does not comply with the constitutional principles that were adopted at the multi-party talks. Those guidelines, those principles, required that the final constitution must abide by them. One of the ones that are pertinent to us, is that of the recognition of the institution of traditional leadership. It said something like the institution of traditional leadership shall be recognized and protected, and that there will be systems of elected governance at all three levels of government, and that the institution must be represented there. But then the constitution, the makers of the final constitution decided to remove the word protect, and we remained with the word recognize, that the institution will be recognized. Now, we went as Contralesa and opposed the certification of the constitution, and then they said, when we said, no, we're not protected here, we're just being acknowledged, we're Sikona. But if they want to do anything as democratically elected people, then they could do that. And then the eminent judges said, no, don't worry, because you are covered. Recognize and protect mean the same thing. And yet those were English-speaking Africans who were at CODESA and so on, who understand English quite well. If there was no need for the two words to be included in the principles, they would have objected to that. But clearly there was a need. And then they said to appease us, if you find that the government of the time does some things that shows that you are exposed, you are not protected, then you can come to us as the Constitutional Court so that you address that. And lastly, on this matter, the one that was referred to again yesterday was that the provision, the section or chapter dealing with the judiciary says absolutely nothing about the indigenous courts. Courts that were there before and during colonialism and apartheid, and even now, they are not mentioned. They said, no, but there's a sub-paragraph at the end that says other courts. You have the Constitutional Court, Supreme Court, High Courts, Magistrates Courts, and all sorts of courts. And then they said, other courts. You are covered there. That court of yours will be given its mention in the laws of the country. You and I know that we still don't have a law that governs traditional courts in practice. It's there, it's been signed and proclaimed by the president, but there are no regulations by which they are supposed to operate. Every institution that has been established in terms of the law must have regulations that are going to ensure how it is implemented. So anything that we don't get it because politicians like us. They don't like us. The reason they don't like us is because they want the power to themselves. And that's nature. You don't just outsource power to anyone. Even if you give someone something to do, but he does it subject to you making sure that you are still in control. So there are houses of traditional leaders nationally, provincially, and locally. There are traditional traditional councils that are recognized. But they are just toy telephones. You speak, and you believe that the other person on the other side will listen and respond. But that doesn't happen. They don't respond. It's only when they're under pressure, as is the case now, that they will appear to be giving us recognition because they need the vote. Somehow, even though they maintain that we are an undemocratic institution, so therefore you don't have the mandate to make any laws. So therefore, you really are not that relevant in terms of the constitution, the democratic order of our times. But then suddenly they realize, hey, Bahlekazi, we know that the voters are your people, and therefore we come with these 2 sheep or this cow in terms of custom. You can't just come to Inkosi without carrying anything and so on. Well, naturally we take these things, but we know this is an insult. These people don't take us seriously. So I thought I should preface my my speech. Of course, you'll tell me to stop because I suspect that I've consumed my allocated minutes. The African system of justice administration, as epitomized by royal courts, the so-called traditional courts, bears all the hallmarks of democracy in its true meaning. In essence, democracy is not necessarily or exclusively about the election of members of local councils, provincial legislatures, and national parliament. It is about the possibility of the people having a say on how they are governed, how laws and regulations are made, how those placed in positions of authority are held accountable. The exercise of such rights may or may not happen through elections. I'm sure you all know that the system in terms of which traditional leaders are installed in their positions is covered by customary laws, the cultures of our people. And our people have a say in the manner in which they are interpreted and implemented. We know that if a traditional leader goes against the customs, the culture of the people, then obviously it can't last. Even though the idea is that you can't be removed as a traditional, you can be removed. And the manners of your removal are drastic. They can happen through the actions of the ancestors, the spirits, or they can happen through the actions of the people that you're supposed to lead because you belong to them. It's not the other way around. That's why you don't talk about my people. Bantu bam, batobaka. Do you say that? No, they are your grandfathers, not even your father's people. They are your grandfather's people. That's how you refer to them, because they are not yours. Wena uyinkonyana yohlanga. You are the calf of the nation, so you belong to them, not the other way around. So you can't do as you please. The African system, as I say, is inclusive. It's democratic and open and welcoming to those who seek justice, in contrast to the Western-oriented courts, as you find in our Constitution, which are intimidating, alienating, complicated, retributive, incarcerating, and expensive. The royal courts seek to foster harmony, reconciliation, compensation to the aggrieved, and easy and inexpensive access to justice, as well as the rehabilitation of the offender. The African system fosters the spirit of community, where the individual exists for the benefit of the greater community. Anyone who offends another is considered as offending the entire community. Justice is fostered within the family, within the clan, within the neighborhood, within the village, the tribe, and the nation or kingdom. You don't just run to a higher level of the system of justice administration without having gone first to the first level. If there's a problem between you and your parents or your family members, you talk to the heads of the house, which is the husband and the wife. And then if they are unable to help, you go to the leadership of the clan, the elders in the clan, and so on and so on. So traditional leadership is central to the organization and governance of the community, as I say, starting from the family, the clan, the tribe, up to the realm of the kingdom or nation. The legitimacy of the traditional courts, Act number 9 of 2022, therefore, will be tested against all the values and features that are outlined in this input. The jurisdiction of these courts needs to be extended to cover the whole of South Africa, urban and rural areas, and be applicable to all citizens in the same way as tenets of Roman Dutch law and English law are applied without discrimination. Ikhona imithetho apha yesilungu emanating from the Constitution that exclude or exempts others from their implication. None. It's only ours that are supposed to be applied selectively. I know that we are different ethnic groups and so on, but the principles applicable must be applied to everyone in the country. I agree with those who criticize the Act on account of its tendency to centralize the powers of the court in the person of the senior traditional leader as the head of court, thus degrading the other layers of authority above and below this level. I don't think that Act mentions the courts of the kings. They simply concentrate on those of the senior traditional. They don't even refer to the courts of the headmen and the others that I mentioned far below. Ubukhosi, as the custodian of cultures, African cultures, customs, traditions, and communal land, is dynamic, and in this sense, in its operations, it has over time evolved to the extent that women enjoy the right to participate fully in matters of governance and are eligible to be elected or appointed to leadership positions, excepting, of course, hereditary positions, where age-old customs preserve such positions to male heirs, where such customs dictate that hereditary succession be through female heirs. Deviation is not permissible. Deviation from standing customs detracts from the legitimacy of the holder of the position. I hope this is clear, whether you agree or not, but I hope this is clear what I'm saying. Our courts are more courts of justice than courts of law and procedure. Of paramount importance is the search for the truth, reconciliation, compensation, and rehabilitation of the offender. Compensation of the offended and rehabilitation of the offender. The protagonists are, after all, generally members of the same community, if not from neighboring villages, who must, even after the case has been concluded, one way or the other, still live together. This is in contrast to the procedural, retributive, incarcerating, and vengeful character that is the hallmark of the Western system of justice administration. The head of the family is the person bearing the responsibility to instill discipline and positive values within the members of the household. He settles disputes and dispenses justice according to the degree of the transgression. The aim is at all times the maintenance of good relations and harmony in the family, whilst the father and husband of the house is the main head of the family. The wife and mother serves as the partner that she is, also in assisting him to attain the same goals. She is the one to whom the children appeal for mercy that is associated with the female of the species. See, as traditional leaders, we need to concentrate on what we understand best, what we believe our ancestors would be doing were they living now. The fashionable developments are fine, pay attention to them, because some of them are caused by the fact that we are not true in the application of our own values in terms of what needs to be done about the vulnerable, the weak members of society, the women, the children, and so on. All of our systems provide for what needs to be done about a person who violates the rights of the vulnerable. The vulnerable mostly being the children, the women, the people who are infirm and so on. I know that some of those who feel in a better position to fend for themselves take what you call offense to talking about men having to protect women. The great majority need the protection of women. They are not well off. They depend on the family structure. So it's important, therefore, that we not forget that as traditional leaders. At a level higher than the household, disputes involving more than one family are handled by clan elders or leaders. In instances where the antagonists are from, I think I've referred to this already. You can indicate how many seconds I'm left with. At least I've written.
I'm saying he must sit down.
He's intimidating me. Oh, you noticed. No, I'll try and be fast, but the paper, I've taken the trouble to write everything down, so that I hope these papers will be distributed. Yeah. So I was saying, therefore, that at a level higher than the household, disputes involving more than one family are handled by clan elders or leaders. In instances where the antagonists are from different clans or neighborhoods, the arbitrator is the sub-headman. This is considered the first level of formality in the hierarchy of the system. The court is constituted by the sub-headman and heads of households in the village. The proceedings, like those of the higher courts, are held in the open, usually under a tree. Every adult member of the family is free and encouraged to participate in the examination and cross-examination of the parties and their witnesses. This means that the cases are tried by the peers of the litigants, while in all courts of traditional leaders there's a differentiation between criminal and civil cases. The procedure followed in the trial of such cases is the same. The proceedings are conducted in an informal but respectful manner and a relaxed atmosphere. Generally, everybody knows everybody, making it relatively easy to tell if a witness is lying or not. As indicated earlier, the headman, senior traditional leader, and the king each have their own court. The king's court consists of all his senior traditional leaders. That's how it's supposed to be. Some of his senior uncles, brothers, cousins, and so on, that is royal family members, as well as prominent members of the kingdom, known for their expertise, knowledge, and experience about the customs, traditions, culture, and history of the realm. The court of the senior traditional leader, Abakutwango chief, is similarly constituted, with all the headmen being members of the council. The court of the headman, in turn, is made up of the sub-headmen within his area of jurisdiction. At this level, also prominent members of the royal household, historians, cultural experts, traditional healers, and people skills are encouraged to participate in the trial of cases. The open and democratic manner in which the cases are heard instills a sense of confidence in the litigants. It is on rare occasions that appeals are lodged against judgments and sanctions passed and imposed. Cultural norms and customs add legitimacy to both the proceedings and the court officials themselves. It has to be admitted that traditionally and historically, women play a minimal role in court proceedings. However, in matters such as family disputes, succession, and inheritance, they are consulted as expert witnesses who are endowed with special skills and insights. Nowadays, however, the practice of excluding women from court proceedings and in governance generally is reversed, having started on its own volition even before 1994. Many regents, who served during the minority of the heirs to the throne are women and mothers of their sons. Many of the royal councillors are women, a trend that results in trials being conducted with compassion and understanding for the plight of both the offender and the aggrieved. It would be wise for government in its endeavor to modernize and democratize the institution of traditional leadership, to leave these courts as they are, but allow them to adapt to the changing conditions. For instance, the procedures followed do not lend themselves readily to the involvement of lawyers. The people themselves are generally conversant with the applicable rules, and anyone is free to point out for rectification conduct that is improper on the part of all those involved in the proceedings. Lawyers should, if they want to participate in the trial of these cases, do so like any other members of the public. Unlike in the Western-oriented courts, in the African courts of traditional leaders, justice is dispensed in an inexpensive manner. You are well aware that in the other courts, justice is literally for sale. The more money you have at your disposal, the better the chances of you winning the case on account of your ability to hire the more experienced and knowledgeable lawyers. The reverse is true for the poor litigants who cannot afford the services of expensive and more experienced lawyers. Thank you. The traditional leader is the embodiment of the state in its entirety in his territory. He is the lawmaker, the executive, and the judge. I think it's important that we not be apologetic about our systems. Can listen to those who talk about separation of powers and those kinds of things, ensuring that there are checks and balances, that you don't abuse your position because you are involved in all of them. That's fine for those who are not guided by what I said is guiding us. So, the important factors to bear in mind is that he at all times acts in council. Whatever decision he takes, he has to ensure that he consults his advisors. The legislative authority over which he presides is the People's Assembly, Imbizo. I think Imbizo. Lekgotla. What about the court? What is the court? Lekgotla. Imbizo Lekgotla. Then what are we here? Pizzo. So we're not Lekgotla. Or is it in another language, Lekgotla?
Lekgotla is the name of the program.
No. You took it from the name of one of our institutions. No, in Pedi, what is this? What is Imbizo in doing? Oh, yeah. So,
what is Horo then?
oh, yo. All right. So I'm saying therefore Imbizo. I think everybody, that language is popular even in political circles, Imbizo and so on. So that is where we make our laws. And African, it is at this level of Imbizo where decisions taken by the executive can be reviewed, reversed, or ratified. So the executive will take decisions, but then they have to be ratified at some stage, Imbizo, in case they have failed to follow the known prescripts. And African Imbizo is not a stage-managed affair. Anyone can stand up and request that they be allowed to speak. Everyone is afforded the opportunity to have his say. Significantly, once decisions are taken, they become law, with the enforcer of such laws being the executive, working closely with the judiciary, of which he is the presiding officer. So let me tell you, they all have to be abided by. And the traditional leader and council is going to ensure that this is done. And in the executive, in the administration of the affairs, as well as in the judiciary. We are fully aware that all of these decision-making forums are open to members of the community to have their say. You cannot be more democratic than this. When he pronounces the forum's decision or verdict, Inkosi does it in the full knowledge that it may not readily be questioned because it is their decision. Hence, he is known to be the voice of the people. He whose mouth tells no lies. Umlomo pungose, ongaqambi manga. Inkosi kele, because he is articulating the views, wishes of the people. In his capacity as the custodian of the land, he holds it in trust, being conscious of the fact that it belongs to the people's forebears, the living and the future generations. He cannot do with it as he pleases. He is allocated enough, after all, of his own for him to want to get more than is already due to him. Umhlaba wakomkhulu uba mkhulu, because no sapho olukhulu, namasimi akhona makhulu, for the reasons I'm going to mention. Pieces of land for residential purposes, animal grazing, crop production, recreative purposes, economic or business purposes, are allocated on a needs basis. Unmarried men and women, or women without children to care for, have no automatic right to be given land. Uzawuhlala nabana xa ungenabantwana utshatile ungatshatanga uyindoda ungeyondoda rather uhlala kokwenu ungumthwalo wapha kokwenu funeka ukhulise ikhaya ngamandla akho nawo upha kokwenu. But bunabantwana, if you have children, then you are entitled because you have to provide for them. But if you are a man, you don't have children, you are not married, what are you going to use that land for? Except for the problems that were raised yesterday, where our government will find a beautiful piece of land. Then, oh, this place is unused. They don't even know why you keep it open as a traditional community. Then they have money to build houses. They don't ask, what are your needs? Don't you need tractors, plowing implements, and all those kinds of things that are going to ensure that you don't rely forever on food parcels? The Ministry or Department of Housing or Human Settlements has money. Go build houses. Then they find this open space, build houses, RDP houses. And then people start applying. And most of those who will do that are single men or women. And then there's not even a space for a garden so that you can produce food in these RDP houses. They are built more or less in the same way as what you find in the townships, where there's hardly a space for cars to move in the passages. Then who fills up those houses? Is the unemployed youth, women with no children, men with no children, unmarried. And then what happens there? Because they need each other. So the one who's alone will invite the other, and they stay, and so on. But I'm saying, therefore, the land is given on a needs basis. This is so because the basic unit of the community is the family and not the individual, as is the case with the other people. In the case where the person allocated a piece of land is no longer in need of it, it reverts to the community and is placed at the disposal of Inkosi to avail it to others who are in need. Communal land is too valuable to place a price on it. It is priceless and thus may not be sold. Not supposed to sell communal land. You have a right to occupy and use it, but you don't have the right to alienate or sell it. You can give it to somebody else within the community with the approval of the traditional leader, so that, as I say, you give it to people who are in need, not people who are already endowed with their own pieces of land, unless there are special circumstances. As the custodian of the culture, customs and traditions of the people, Inkosi determines the times for plowing, planting, and harvesting, the grazing lands that must be used, and those that may be reserved for the future in times of drought or other calamities. He determines the times of communal cultural events, initiation ceremonies, prayers for rain in times of severe drought, the royal residence also known as the Great Place, is refuge for the poor, the weak, the vulnerable, the mentally handicapped, the travel-weary stranger, and in times of war, the victims of such strife. By reason of these and other responsibilities, the people regard it as their duty and responsibility to provide for the maintenance of the royal household by tending its livestock and cultivating the royal fields. In turn, in times of need and starvation, the people expect the royal residents to provide for them as a matter of course. Modernity, coupled with foreign ways of life, brought about by colonial forces and their fellow travelers, the missionaries, served to undermine all of the virtues of our original systems of governance, to the extent that some could be forgiven that these things no longer obtain, and that where they do, they are symbols of backwardness and oppression. Yet in some places you do find that once traditional leaders, together with their support systems, as I mentioned, the working in council, as explained above, seriously assert themselves, successes are registered. If you follow this, and then you find that some law or some official says you are wrong because the Constitution and that doesn't allow it, then the Constitutional Court said we should go to them. But I do not know how much we trust it to understand and promote our ways. But it is there to protect everyone, because the Constitution at the end of the day does provide a space for someone. The only problem is that we in the rural areas don't have the resources that the people in the urban areas tend to have. So hence they are able to go and influence the making of laws in parliament and those kinds of things. Lastly, the land is fertile now for traditional leaders to unite and reclaim their position in the governance of the affairs of their great-grandfathers' people. The people have seen that the advent of democracy resulted in the destruction of the values that served us so well in the past. It is time for traditional leaders to position themselves in a manner that shows the people that we are positioned to help salvage our heritage before foreigners, internal and external, can wreak even more havoc. My apologies for not respecting you, Mr. Program Director, and Bahlekazi nonke. Thank you very much.
Is there any other protocol that needs to be observed when Dilizintaba has done talking, has done giving his speech? Okay. Okay. No, are you still okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. I've just been alerted to the fact that the minister, the Queen, and then have to go. So I ask that, in respect of that protocol, I ask that, is it fine, Tabisan? Okay, I ask that we rise, and then respecting those that are supposed to rise may rise, so that the Queen and the minister may leave. And thank you. Thanks, Tabisan. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. So for now, I'll ask that we take a 5 minutes break. A 5 minutes break, and then we will go into the last session. 5 minutes break, and then I will call you when your time is up, and then I will call you, and then we go into the last session. Thank you so much. Yeah, colleagues, let's come back into the hall so that we may begin with the last session of the day. Colleagues outside, let's come back into the hall so that we may. Yes. My kings and queens outside, please come back into the hall so that we may. Right. Okay. Yeah, please come back into the hall so that we may finalize the session. And please, by tapela ba ka khopela le nthuse ke bitse di kgosi tsa rena di bo erotho. Hey. Baiklah. Kita So, I get a level it now. Get one about oh, okay. And then here can Khoshari Masrum Lemabele. Yeah, okay. Yeah, colleagues, thank you so much. We may now begin. I was just sorting out issues of protocol and the likes. And colleagues that are outside, yeah, we can come back into the hall so that we may begin. Is it fair? Oh, okay. Oh, not that. Okay, thanks. Onto the podium, may I please have Ms. Thandi Ramngwana onto the podium, please, to come and take a seat here. Thandi. And then may I also ask Mr. Sizwe Nkosi to come and have a seat here. And then Ms. Thembisile Mahua. Ms. Thembisile Mahua, I ask that you come and take your seat. Yeah, this one. You'll be first. Sure. Oh no, let me put Caesar first. I'll put Caesar first. Caesar, I'll put you first. Sure. Thank you, colleagues. I think we can continue. And then colleagues of the multimedia, may I please get a roving microphone? Thank you very much. For now, we will hear from Mr. Sizwe Nkosi, who's from the National Research Foundation and the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement. Did I say it right, Sizwe? Thank you so much. May we please give a warm round of applause for Mr. Nkosi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mala, for the introduction. Can definitely confirm that my name is Sizwe Khoza from the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement, which is one of the business units of the National Research Foundation. Colleagues, let me acknowledge the presence of the dignitaries in the House. I know some of them have left, the Queen, Queen Mojaji, the royal family, the Minister for Defense, the dignitaries, the academics, as well as the communities which are in the room today. And maybe as a start, I would like to extend my appreciation, Mr. Ramala, to you, as well as Professor Paswana, as well as the TM School for our continued partnerships that we have had for a number of years now. So we, as NRF SASTA, appreciate that partnership. And yeah, just to give maybe some context, colleagues, in terms of how we have had this relationship with TM School and maybe even with Mr. Ramala. Sometime back as the NRF, we're imagining or reimagining our organization as the NRF in terms of really what kind of research we wanted to fund. And obviously we noticed the shifts, right? And we identified that research has to have impact in society, right? So how do you do this, right? You, obviously one of the ways or the pathways in which you could do this is to support engaged research. That is the partnerships between communities as well as academics, right? For so long, this space really has not come to the fore, and we've seen research happening, we've seen teaching and learning flourish, but the third pillar of universities has not really come to the mainstream, right? So as we reimagine with the NRF, we say to ourselves, engaged research or engaged scholarship is one of the ways in which we can support research which has got impact in society, right? And this is why we identified McDonald's project as one of the projects for us in the NRF that could really have an impact in society, right? When we looked at all the projects that we submitted, where members of academics were working with communities, we said to ourselves, this is one of the projects that we, likely to support as the NRF, as well as the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation, right? And we are glad today, McDonald, that this project has continued and it has gone from strength to strength, right? So we appreciate that. And I think just to acknowledge as well, some of the speakers that have come through have really emphasized the role of traditional leaders when it comes to this kind of research, McDonald, where communities are working with academics. And I'm proud to say, even in our work as well, the funding that we provide to the local public universities, we've seen this relationship develop, right? We've seen some of our academics working with traditional leadership, whether they are seeking an entry into the communities. Obviously, they have to go through structures in the communities, and those structures are traditional leaders. But traditional leaders also hold power, right? And this is the power that, we need for these projects to succeed, right? They also hold knowledge as well, and it is the role of the academics that we are funding to make sure that that knowledge comes into the mainstream, right? That knowledge which is indigenous in the community, it needs to be preserved. And we are glad that McDonald's work contributes to that, right? McDonald, I will also say that the last time that I was here, I shared with your participant that as the NRF SASTA, we were funding projects with some of the universities in South Africa over just 10 million 3 years ago. So we are glad to see that there are signs now of potential impact where that research is likely, or it has a potential to contribute to policies that helps to reshape the communities, right? So this is not any kind of work. It is really important work that you and the communities are delivering on, right? Again, I would like to say, McDonald, that this year, just last month, we had an NRF HSRC Engage Research Conference. So the work that I speak about that we funded 3 years ago is not the only thing that we've been doing as the NRF. And that is an important conference for us because it starts to say, how do we support the mainstreaming of engaged research or engaged scholarship within the national system of innovation? So we are now taking the engaged scholarships, which has been lying really at the periphery of academic, and then moving it to form part of, or equal to the rest of the scholarship, which is research as well as teaching and learning, right? This week, I was at the MUT conference, the Mangosuthu University of Technology Engaged Scholarship Conference, and again, there's some really good deliverables and outcomes that came out of that project. It is another conference that has been supported by NRF SASTA through, obviously, the funding of the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation. So with this kind of support, we are hoping that you, UNISA, as well as the rest of the academics, would then see fit in terms of working with communities and making sure that we produce new knowledge, which are going to solve some of the problems that we are experiencing, because we acknowledge that the type of challenges that we are experiencing in the 21st century cannot only be solved by academics only. They need academics, they need government, but they also need civil society as well. So with those words, I hope the project goes from strength to strength, McDonald, and also make sure that communities form part of this project, and they are not just on the side, but on the center as well. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sizwe Khoza, from the National Research Foundation and the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement. And it's a good working relationship that we enjoy with the NRF as academics and as scholars. And I also ask my kings and queens, if there's anything that needs to happen in your villages in relation to research, That's the man. Yes, because then he can give guidelines, he can give, he's a busy man. He was supposed to be with us, Mabani, but then he couldn't be. But Sizo, thank you so much, my brother. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the well wishes. As per protocol, Maorena is going to stand up, is going to come onto the podium and come and speak. And then it is only the men that stand. The women sit down. So I'm going to ask my honored guests, all the men in the room, as you know yourselves, please stand, and then the protocol shall be observed as per the request. And then we do as such. Please, may all the men stand. Microphone, Bausoy.
Emma Transvala. Emma Skukuneland. Emma Marbo Pidi Kabopara. Hoshi wa Mushaka Marole. Mushopam Masbuti Sadimo Solo Matebo. Senagari Ralamagodu Tubats. Wa poko ana majomara magolo ka mabedi a matlapange go maya tshilwane kwa mo ke tse go tongwana di mo le hlabiro ba tlako ba raphola ngwato ba pedi ba mmamotlano ko mana sa galagala sa marumo o re ga ge shuga ri ile go hwarila go fengwa wa mangana mo wara wa tsugile mahlaki ba re go tsugile mo wara go ke sona seleme sa morako mabare ko magedi tshabela tshabile madikadikana di tshabela mosetlo mokoni ke ngwana mahlaola le dimbo mohume a matlanyana bohlolo jwa tabane ke lona le dimo le tshuma batho na ka mphagane kopo hlahlarulela ka khoshi ke le botsa la masinya mahlonthe penke le tlotse taga molomo ke khomo e tshungwana kwa khalantlola makwa kwa khalantlola marumo ke sibusha mogotsi ya go sethele ka moletlana ke tula re ke ngwana khoshi a sekukune tulare ke ngwana khoshe sekukune sa malema kwa khoshe wa mashila manyama wa mashila ga tisha bongwakwana wa mashila ga tisha ka lekopelo ke mamosela matuba ke tsotsobo kwa tshosha ba re mosela o tlatla le phoka le fokeng ke tsotsobo kwa tshosha ke tsotsobo kwa mana ka lephatleng ba rena ka la gagolana la palla masole le shitile maburu ka lenareng re etetša tshitšhila manyama ke mmadira re sena go mosepelo mashile ke namane ra etetša mashile ke namana mošitwana mashile ke namane e tšhungwana o tshitsekala kgorwana le tšibo go tshitsekala borwala ga masemola ke mogatša kogola ka eseseng sa motebele ke mogatša ngwanana moopong ke mapsukuluša matswaka le maboke theledi ya maruta ba re theledi ka borotšo o senyana ke masenyeletši ya matuba ke masenyamagadi a batho ba re tsokutswana mphatana lena madira tshabane le tshabeng mantsokodi a etla ke lona lentšana le hloka se re hurile mano ke mphiri ke malumaserate ke tata go ngwana mohube se bolai sa matuba ntše ka manakadi a lla theledi a kgalantlo la mošito wa makwa mašila ga tiša bodiphale o re ga gešo a re tsotsoropege re a phoronkela go tsotsoropega ko go tšhaba marumo o re lokana bakgatla ke lokana manye o re ke nna ke moretelano ka ke retetše ke reteletše maburu a ga jobere ke sa tlo retelela le ba ga mapantana o re ke monoka ka mokgaditse ga ke moraka ke ngana la masinya mahlong ke nna matsoga ka ditšho mošiane o re ke nna tulare a mma ke etla ke matsoga ka ditšho bo mošiane o re go tsoga tsatsapela ke setodiša mangane ba re go tšo bošo ke mmapurupurung sepitla mangana ma matome lekgalela mo lebatse ba re o pitile mpa tša mogolong kwana magarole a ba go belanya le tša mapulana a tswetla o re ke lemekwane ke tšo boa garantšhua thebe shiba tloga ditlogela di a go tlogela le sereng go bona dikwata la re tama kgoši ngwana kgoši a sa ile bokgala ka bopedi hlapoga di a phatlha ba uba se batla kgomo mangoreng mšaka
a ke le tamišeng bana ba thulare ke tlwaetše go ipshina ka sagešo ke kgale le theeditše sekgowa ka mo le a ntlaba ga re tlo lokiša sekgowa re tlo lokišang segagabo rena a ke leboge baetapele ba university Thabo Mbeki School protocol observed re a tloga jwale re tamiša re ya pele Ke tamishe the queens and the kings, senior tradition leaders, Indigenous, and all leaders. Really, Bagashu, Kaki Tedije Tabayeri village Jomo. Ki tabaye in sweet Jero Mingwara, Ile Mogona, Kur ita ili pujisho. Babang, one of the good days, really conference somewhere, Kare, all people are complaining because of the law. We need law. But kia one or no? No, we are happy. People civilized, educated, but there's something that is needed. What is it? Law. Le fasila rena over continent arena. Inita law. We are not protected. The nation is not protected. Everyone is not protected. Why? Because of democracy. Democracy is gona, but aina law e khwatleng. Kabakare, please, re khopela gore le re ishetse molaetsa. Molao ga o tie. We don't say there is no law. There is law, but it's not tightened. Please do that. Every time I stand up, I talk about law. Law must be tightened. Khandi go shorta the black law. We are using the white law. The black law is not there. We still need it. Are whooping the black law. Hona re tabale a continent. Hona jwalo re mo sthakathakeng. You got a house, but you are not happy. Huh? How to many mo butler prove everything? Huh? Umonina but ulebella ka di windows. You are not happy. You are not settled. But the house is yours. Like one and two. It's refile. Whenever we got a democracy, if we are happy. We are not. Yeah. Libella bana. Libella bogoshi. Ke akenena kwetellene ngenka tharolla. Libella bogoshi re wa etsagala nka gare ga bola bogoshi yana ilego a key ya lefase. Mara bogoshi bo eme ka not ka lotone ka monwana o tee. Ngwana o no tswa ka mola re le nna ke nna kgoshi. Mo ka mola ga o khutsa ka ye ngwana o thoma ye mongwe ka the next door. Le nna ke nna kgoshi e batho ba modimo. Le ena o na le group. Le ena o na le group. Na ntwe tlhagisha ke democracy. Since mola go e ba le democracy, dilo tsa mohuto di a tlhaga. O ka re rena black people, we don't know each other. But we know our culture. Huh? Something came and confused us. King democracy. Are running. But something happened. And Vutoriana go ritelukishe. Ariamen come out to get the black law. We sharpen our continent. Kotomeka, kings, queens, Custodian leaders, and Indigenous, the leaders of communities, living together. How can we do this? How can we do resolutions? Not just talking. No. A re nyake di-resolutions. Tja gore na, how can we do this? Huh? How can we hey, re lokiseng. And one day, I was opening the shopping center. I said to them, we are not very far. More it's just behind the door. We start with our children. Small children, rathoma bona. Akiri bona ba their pay. That is not worked. No gola pay. The 350 tjela tja go robelega. Ba le re ba tlogela ba shetse ba fentwe. Unless bona ka bona ba rectify what they done. Re thomeng ka ba di 10 years go ya godimo. Re ba lokisheng bana ba. Nna ke shetse ke thomile kwa gae kwa. All these young girls, they come together. Ba apola. Go swana le mola re tswang teng. Ba shala ka matswele. And then the elders, ba botsa gore na gore o tlobe motho a feletseng o santse gore o be jwang o santse o tshwara jwang kare le lena banna young boys ba bitseng ba nameleng thabo not go bolla. These things are different, are not the same. Le bollo leng le ntho re swereo are not the same. Ye ke go ba otlolla, yeah? Straighten them up. Ba pertlane akere. Ba senyegile akere. They are destroyed by democracy. Jwale re a ba otlolla bana ba ba rena ba. Ka borena. Not gore mmušo. You are mmušo of yourself. A re thomeng. We blacks, we got lost to straighten a person. Jwale re dutse re tshogile re bathuši ba keng ba tlile ba re keng what you call the politicians. Re lebeletse bona go feta kgoši feta ke masepala. Yeah? Municipality is too big above you. Municipality o dia ntho engwe le engwe mo nageng ya gago. You don't have a power as a chief, not a chief, as a leader. Who did everything that he wants. Gomme wena ba re ke nageng ya gago ba bitša ka ina la gago. Ha o na le essay. Wa e bona ntho eo. A re direng gore bana ba re ba otlolleng rena ka borena. Rena re mmušo. Re mmušo. Na ga ke democracy ga e tla e goditše go sena mmušo. A ke re goditše go ne mmušo. Mmušo o bo swere ke mang? We black people. Well, where is our loss? Huh? Where is our loss? A re boele morago batho ba Modimo. A re boele morago. We are not very far. Re ka lokisa. A re thomeng ka bana ba ba rena. Re tlo ya godimo. Bana ba re ba ruta molao. Re ba swere re ba tlhokometše. Ba tsena dikolo. We don't say mustn't go to school. Ha ba tsene sekolo re ba balele gore bana ba ba rutege. Go fihlela mo ba ratang. Ba tla ba nyalwe ba rutegile. Ba tla ba dire bana ba rutegile. Gona o dira ngwana jwang ha ke re santse gore a nyake lenyalo. Lenyalo le lona le tlo rotoga. Today ga o sana lenyalo. Ka gore kgoši ga e tsene fao. Go tsenang sekgowa. Go dira dilo tše dingwe go apariwa dilo tše dingwe. Hey! And we are confused. We are mixing things up. What are you doing? Why is an area plain sicho? Blacks are tweeting very tapping. I don't like confidence. Why? Why is it happy? And we are rich, man. How about Modimo? We are rich. How to talk a silo? Reawusha. Mara, a re lokišeng gore batho ba ba re šuthelleng ka gonyane ba no re boedi morago ba bone gore na mola re be re buša jwang we can ene go monate jwang re a kgona re thomeng ka bana ba bannyane re yeng pele dikgoši tlogela merebana ga ba le bitša e tlang le latlhegile and you are confused. Come. Itlang. Re tlo lokisha ntwe. Ena ba tshepa hore le ka lokisha professor. Aba tshepa hore le ka lokisha. But you are playing because you are in a university. Still young, they are playing. Re ka lokisha. Na re a tshepa hore one day can be one day. Habar amendment baira rena melawe e dirile ke rena re noši re ka e dira ya e swanela go the blacks re a tseba fela ga re lo nyakana re a tseba gore na mošate o swariwa jwang mošate o swariwa jwang melao ya ka mošate ke eng ga re ka tlhokomela lapa la mošate pele bogoši bo ka lapeng la mošate ene lapa le la mošate le reng le protectwe le tlhokomelwe le tšhireletšwe go tloga mo e bogoši jo bo tlo tla go lena batho ga o ntse o sepela re ye ke mosotho ka baka la gore kwa bosotho go na leng bogoši lapa la mošate le tšhireletšwe keng ke mozulu because bogoši bo gona mo go wena from the royal house to you ga o ntse o sepela le jona everywhere ntwena e a tshologa mara o ka se e bone le nena batho as a community bogoši jo bo tlo le tšhologela ga bo le protected ga bo tlhomphiwa gana jwale ga bo sa tlhomphiwa no bo timeditše ke eng no we don't know o ka re ke tlo tšeela batho sebakana ke a fiša ke be ke kgopela professor go fologa stage I got so many things to say. Let me just go down.
Are menga maoto.
Napogadi ya phasa ba uba. O le nna jwale ka ba uba ke hlabile le kuru ka lekwe ka nokeng ke re bolla tshidi ya nkokoto ke ipolotse nkokoto tawana kgolo se tlhoma ke tau ya ba uba sa gafa se lengwana. Molamo ke pomba gonte le go thalamba magateng a moshoshomatsi lona mashona matebela mosilikatsi o re ke topa bopedi ke le topi ke a topa ke ba topile nta thekeng wona mohlangola ke topa khatina bala busy modishi seape ya go bjwa msika ke apeile ka lekwebepe pele tshoswane tše tšouli tše ntshudi ka le ka go neelana ka go sethaganya mathebo gore la kgomo e šuli le wele segona la mogala go bane la ge šuli shaka kgomo le thegile ka la mashona matebele mashankana nkunkunyane maswatse a sopusa le batswana ba mmangwato nkontša bona ba ekwa ba pedi morologong nkga ke kgolo go thama tapa ke se ikamela difoka ke thomo ke phaswa ke mošišimala mošiane o re ke šišimetse tlou ya marota tapa ke emela pele la mmammotlwano ke le mogotlo ke ketekete sa modumo kgomo ya bommaselato le sa majwana ba re ge e ragile therešo e tloga e ragile lekela ga mphatlhelela latla metsing e ragile le ba matlala sethobolo o rwala thuto mmago mohube a mmatlejwana a botlholo jwa tabane re kele ga gešo bokgala ka bopedi kwa ga mmatšekelele o re ke fehlola nkule ya betlwa ga e le moko re nne bašimanyana ba dipudi maremanyana a mmutla a tšate ke theledi ya marota ba ba re patletse ba swara ba shele ba hlako ba raphola ngwato o re marola wa tšwa go tswetla ga re kana thobela a se marola dikgomo ke marola batho ba re tšwa ga mogala ka mmaka paradiswana ba o ba re ka thupa kgwadi ka thupa khulwana ka thupa namana mmala phatleng o re ga ga magwe ya tšhupša o ye ga mo ikamela mokaka o bone boditse bo sekujwa tlola ditšhila ke thulare ke morekereke ya lebotsa thulare o tlotse motagamolomo ke kgomo šungwana ya lebotsa wa mampamma kuanonyana se rothobala go rothobala momonya go ja dikumola mabutswa ba re mogala ga tlhabane o botile mpšana jabo o botile mogaramedi ya dintosbeke mmamagane mokgalagadi ya mokwena ba re nape seneša pula marega o tlo re bakela mokomane o re ba dutse seboka mmopudung wa moso tšatši la hlaba re tlo kopana re tlo ba gola jwale ka mamati hlapagadi ya phatlha ba ubua šalang ga botse tšhaba sa thulare
ra leboga Thank you. Yeah, moving on along. Are we still okay? Thank you. Now to our next speaker, Ms. Thembisile Mahua, who's from the National Youth Development Agency, who's a board member there, and a lawyer. Ms. Mahua, please come and give your address. May we give her a warm round of applause. And then on that note, Inkosi Thandisizwe Mpungos, ngiyabonga baba. Thank you so much and go well.
Thank you very much, Program Director. We spoke about how things are supposed to be done. Where I come from, once Inkosi, or once the Queen, or once Isilo has spoken, sekuphelile, no one speaks after. So you're putting me in a very, very difficult position, Program Director. As umntwana wesizwe, it's very difficult. But because Sithunyiwe, we'll then do what we have then been sent here to do. I'd like to greet you all. Siyakhuleka emakhosini wonke khona namhlanje. We'd like to greet the queens in their absentia. Siyakhuleka kumakhosi akhona wezizwe nezizwe. Siyakhuleka abantwaneni bezizwe nezizwe. We'd like to greet the Chancellor of the University in his absence. We'd like to greet the Vice Chancellor in her absence. We'd like to greet the Minister of Defense as she has left us, the Vice Chancellor of the Thabo Mbeki School, Prof. Paswana, the university and Thabo Mbeki School management that is present here today, government officials that are here, leaders of society, and most importantly, the young people that are present here today. Those ones are my people. I am Thembisile Mahua, a young girl with roots from Wankosi, Abakwadladla, Nabakwavilakate, Eswatini. I am also a proud Zulu maiden, leading over 500 Zulu maidens under the custodianship of Isilo KwaZulu, His Majesty King Misizulu kaZwelithini. By profession, I am a lawyer, and today I stand here deployed by the National Youth Development Agency as a board member to represent the interest of young people. I will try to be very quick, Program Director. I will also perhaps maybe share the presentation, should you request. It is an honor for me to speak at this important gathering today. I believe the theme as presented invites us to look back, invites us to look inward, but most importantly, to look forward. It reminds us that our journey is strengthened not only by the wisdom of our elders, but also by the energy and the potential of the young people of South Africa. Young people are not just the recipients of progress. Young people are the carriers of tomorrow's greatness. For generations, the custodians of African indigenous laws have been our kings, our queens, amakhosi, izinduna, and our elders. They have always protected our identity, our dignity, and championed justice and community living. So as we celebrate 31 years into democracy, we recognize how harmonizing democratic governance with indigenous governance is still an unfolding journey, and this was quite a predominant topic yesterday. Traditional leadership remains central to social cohesion, to cultural preservation, to conflict resolution, as well as community development. For the NYDA, traditional leaders are essential partners for us. They help us reach young people in rural and indigenous communities. where opportunities are unfortunately very limited. Now, as the new board, which has been appointed by His Excellency President Ramaphosa a bit of 3-4 months ago, we have prioritized and we have made it our mission to reach out to young people living in rural areas that have not had access to sources and resources of the government. We have visited so far more than 3 rural areas, and we will attempt to continue to expanding this reach as it is part of our mandate. Traditional authorities have played an important role in youth empowerment, in addressing social ills such as gender-based violence and femicide, substance abuse, and teenage pregnancy, preserving indigenous knowledge systems, and promoting cultural identity. So as we revisit indigenous laws, Maholo, the key question becomes, how do we ensure that the next 31 years of democracy are strengthened by our indigenous wisdom? And my answer to this is very simple. Young people must inherit this heritage confidently. Young people must learn from our elders in ensuring that we preserve our identity and innovating for the future. At the NYDA, we believe in a South Africa where tradition and progress walks together. We envision young people who understand who they are, where they come from, and where they are going. Traditional leaders, as custodians of our culture, we respectfully plead with you to open spaces that empower and develop young people. Let them be part of the processes. Let them learn, let them lead, and let them contribute. As we reflect on our shared future, we confront the urgent truth. Many young people lack the foundational resources needed to create real change, and that speaks to land. Land is our identity. Land is our heritage, and land is our livelihood. And we need to use it as a gateway to economic empowerment. When young people are entrusted with the land, we give young people an opportunity to innovate, to build, and to participate in the local economy, to preserve and as well to preserve the customs that define our people. I make this plea to you as a Makosi, as our leaders, and as our parents. Let young people be granted access to land within their communities, not as a handout, but as an investment. An investment in a future, or this is an investment in future custodians of this culture, in future leaders, and the future drivers of local development. Access to land will unlock agriculture, ecotourism, cultural initiatives, green economy projects, and community enterprises. We need to look at young people as the generation that will change the trajectory of our communities. Empowering young people with land means empowering them to create jobs, to feed the families and the communities, and to build sustainable futures. Where there are reservations, Baholo, we understand, we have learned of the reservations, especially yesterday, of perhaps granting young people land. As the NYDA, we have a solution to that. We request that perhaps we can have a youth land initiative. Now, this would be a joint partnership with the NYDA as well as amakhosi. This is to say, as much as you provide the land, we must know what to do with the land. And the NYDA will ensure that young people are equipped with developmental strategies, with mentorship, to use the land effectively. It will also ensure that there's structure, that there's accountability, that there's mentorship, and that the community benefits. Baholo, this speaks to the work of the NYDA. It speaks to our legislated mission and mandate, which is to collaborate, to develop, and to empower young people through partnerships with government, with business, with civil society, as well as traditional leadership. So today I ask with the utmost humility and with conviction that trust our young people, invest in their futures through land. We cannot complain of youth unemployment when we are not giving young people an opportunity to work the land. When we invest in youth, we invest in the prosperity as well as the dignity of our communities. As I close, Program Director, the future is already here, carried in the hands of us as the young people. When we empower young people, our communities grow. We have seen this, that when we don't empower young people, we succumb to the social ills. We succumb to drugs, we succumb to alcohol, and other social ills. When we trust young people, we trust that this culture, that the heritage is secured. Together, government, traditional and indigenous leadership, civil society, business, and the NYDA, let us build a future where every young person has the space and has the opportunity to rise. Let us step forward, united in this purpose, committed to a tomorrow that is shaped by the future or by the young people that we also serve. Ngiyakhuleka Nina, ngiphinde ngibonge for ithuba enginikezwe lona. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you, Ms. Mahua. Thank you so much. Just for spoiler alert, as a lawyer, Tembisile has never lost a case. So she's a legal eagle. Colleagues, I don't know if you've noticed today the variety of speakers that we've had. At UNISA, we've got what we call the catalytic niche areas, and women Bosadi theorizations is amongst them. And you look at our program today, we've done way more than just this. Even yesterday, the Maoshi Abanna cannot say, no, we were not given a chance. We are supported by the South African Human Rights Commission was there. The Public Services Commission was there. The Cultural Rights Commission was there. And many other organizations of people who sit in this room and then decide to say, I'm not going to say who I am or where I'm from. I'm just here to observe. But I just want to say I'm very much grateful. The NYDA is here. Between these three, you've got Freedom Park, which is on the mountain. You've got the NRF, which is in Sizwe, what's the name? Nanasita. Yeah, in Nanasita Street. And then you've got the NYDA, just here. You have government here. And then, of course, you have UNISA. Thank you so much, colleagues. I just thought I should just sneak that in, just in case. Yeah. because UNISA it's a South African university, the only university of the land. It's not a university of the city, let me not go there. Okay. Our last but not least speaker, it's my sister, Ms. Thandi Ramngwana Umakadebe from Freedom Park Heritage Site and Museum. Makadebe, please serenade us.
Abusheni. Minjani. Andifuna ukumosha. Ndiva ngathi funeke ndiqale nge-apology. Because apho ndisuka khona nam, once kuthethe abadala, especially our leaders, once a king or a queen speaks, ivaliwe debate, kuyagodukwa ke ngoku. So maybe I will pardon myself on behalf of the institution and pretend that I'm here to just summarize what was said today. NdinguMakadebe, obhungana, umthimkhulu, undlebe ezinhle zombili, umashiya amahle anjengawenyamazana, unzipho zimnyama ngokuhlwayana, usigoloza, umafuza afulele njengelifu lemvula, umakhulukhulu. Bathi uNkulunkulu mkhulu kodwa akangangobhungana. Ifudaba wami ebelapha ebezawunditsho kakuhle. Kodwa we live in a system where these things are considered outdated and they waste time. So it is from that note that Ntate Rammala, I was happy to hear you speaking about how long it has taken you and the team that works here to initiate this as an idea and to grow it to where it is today. But today, I think I would love to leave a challenge. Njengomntana wesintu, ukuthi perhaps now we have grown enough. The time has come for us to start holding these lekgotlas at our indigenous mahutla, the khorong tsa rena, where we will not only speak to ourselves and each other from the institutions that we come from, but where culture, indigenous knowledge systems will dictate what is protocol and what is not. Where the youth of our villages, where our traditional leaders come from, the community members, women, elders, everybody, utobateng because ki khorong ya moshate. It was with mixed feelings that I received and accepted this invitation. Sometimes it feels like we gather to complain about what is going wrong and what is not being done. But at the same time, I was reminded of a saying from my mother's people, "Ungala chaundi ulata." If we don't continue the discussions, the talking, the arguing even, the drama and pain that comes with deliberating on issues of culture, heritage, apartheid, democracy, and all of it that they bring, we cannot give up. We will not stop talking, because where there are 2 or 3 gathered to talk about this, seeds are always planted. My joy is when I see spaces filled with more young people than with older people, because the realities that we are living today, the challenges that we are facing today in our country as a race, they are the plans of other people that were made hundreds and thousands of years ago, where they came and started lying to us for so long that today, this day, we don't even know whether we are coming or going, or what is the head or what is the tail of these problems that we face. It is said that we have the best constitution in the world. But my question is it really? Best for whom? Who does this constitution represent? Have you noticed that when we sing the national anthem, Tina, Bandwana Bomkuba, the national anthem forces us to pray, while the other races are praising the beauty, the mountains, the oceans of the land of their forefathers, while all we do, ke morena boloka setjhaba sa Yesu. The national anthem of a country is a very serious part of the Constitution. It speaks to who we are, where we are mentally, spiritually, and in so many ways. And the fact that 30 years into democracy, we've changed street names, we've changed building names, we have said not much about where the national anthem places us. And this comes from the best constitution in the world. And when you look around, you just have to turn on your radio, turn on your TV, or open your cell phone, go to your social media. It's been 30 years of the end of apartheid and the democratic rule under this constitution. But things fall apart up. And they continue to fall apart. They say charity begins at home. And for me, this is where my invitation and encouragement to our indigenous leaders to rise and refuse to be placed and seen as symbolic figures, and to remember that you are custodians of indigenous knowledge systems, cultural justice, and a moral order to restore our dignity and place in the world, to restore how we look at ourselves and our view of the world. The significance of the role of traditional leadership and customary governance is in advancing indigenous knowledge systems is a subject that we must engage on a daily basis. We cannot forget what the legacy of colonialism is. To speak of decolonizing environmental management, we must begin by acknowledging the historical context that has shaped how we think about nature today. Colonial and apartheid systems did not only dispossess African people of our land, they also disrupted the sacred relationship between the people and earth. We have moved from people who went up mountains, who went up caves to call rain. Today, we go together to pray for rains. We have become prayer warriors in all aspects of our lives. But the funny thing is that when you call a gathering of people to pray for rain, none of them will even bring a raincoat or an umbrella. What does that tell us? Our people understood the movement of birds, the movement of stars, of clouds, how trees lean to this side or that side to understand the climate and our natural environment. Our ancestors understood that here, the year does not begin in January. It is very sad to see how much money we spend taking back what the master has been paying us monthly to the owner when we prepare for Christmas, for New Year. That has nothing to do with us as a people. Environmental policies were imposed on us that separated people from the land, declaring some areas as protected, while the very communities who had cared for them for millions of years were expelled, and now Europeans have access through resorts, game reserve. This lion that appears on the packet of that chips that I don't want to call by the name. It used to have a black mane. It was very dark brown in its color. Where are those lions today? Why are we only seeing the hybrids that they have created in game farms, and we no longer see those lions that had hair that looked like yours and mine in its color, and they were not albino, they were also not manufactured in the lab. The same way as the GMO foods that we eat today that give us all the illnesses that we struggle with. If how many bottles of pills are going to come out of our bags and our pockets that are caused by the food that we are eating? Indigenous knowledge systems teach us that plate katata ne plate yomtana azifani. But today, we have been so disconnected to ourselves that kaditling zabolina ukanomakala maybe lika mushate papa baja pizza. Ntate akesi jiri noodles silibana. And the next thing may I expect ntate abe strong, amo protected, and afane kadi rounds. It sounds wrong, right, that I'm saying this, but the fact that family life and marriages are falling apart today because members expect a stokvel sidlale, mara they don't want to take the responsibility of being the biochemist of the family that the African culture and indigenous knowledge systems have for so long taught us that women are the knowledge keepers. Women are seed keepers. They are collectors of seed. They select which seed to plant. They tell you to put seed in your mouth so that you have a lima or ikene. That was science, that they were making sure that we engage and are interconnected to a way that we can talk to plants by giving us our DNA so that when the seed grows into a plant or muroho that you are going to eat, the food that comes from that plant is coded with minerals and nutrition that the seed identified lack in your body. Today, all black women have high blood pressure. They deliver at the cesarean section because for some reason our bodies have forgotten how to give birth to children. And that is a problem. The breakdown of community and the impact of colonial systems must not be forgotten. Parenting has become very difficult. When the village that used to raise the child was disconnected and disbanded, the role of parenting, biology teaching, talking to girls about their bodies, their menstruation, birthing, and everything has been given to the mother. And if you ask mothers today, they don't know how to talk about sex to their 15-year-old daughters. They don't know what to say when they sit down, their teenagers, to talk about sex. And we often point fingers and say, you have failed. Of course, It was never their role to teach young women and young boys about bodies and everything that has to do with sex and sexuality and reproduction. We have different people that today we call uncles and auntie, without even being able to separate whether o bolela ka malume or o bolela ka rangwane, ke rakgadi or ke mmangwane, ha re tsebe, because we have adopted the languages of our oppressors. We have not only adopted the language of our oppressors, we have adopted the religion of our oppressors against African spirituality. Our traditional leaders, and it feels wrong to even say traditional leader because I don't even know what that means. Rituma Malimi trying to translate Induna, Inkosi, Ikumkani, Mushate. All these words are not translatable to English because this is a very young and inexperienced language. This is what happens when you take the role of a parent and you give it to a child. These people arrived now, just yesterday, and they've started to define what is God, who is a black person, what is culture, and so on. And we are allowing it. I recently had the opportunity to engage with young people on Heritage Day. We had a dialogue at Freedom Park, and the young women were very adamant. And I'm talking about university and high school going girls. They said, no lobola for me. And many times we judge them. We say, you don't know your culture. But I bona hubo mang. But we rutu akibo mang. Because we want only white weddings. When it comes to African culture, we cut and paste the parts that suit us. We only want lobola. And ugu lobola, it's very small part yokwendiselana. It's not it's not just about that. Ukwendiselana is a process that could even take a whole year or more. Because there is genealogy. You know how young people today, especially the other people, they go to a doctor to do tests to see if they are compatible. Africans didn't need a doctor for that. Situmao no zakuzako. Bomalume. Habatsamayamole. It's a combination of family, neighbors, and community members. Because we need to understand if these two people that are going to be joined in marriage, are they compatible? Should they be reproducing together? How many children today are we stuck with mental illnesses, depression, bipolar, ADHD, ADD, autism, things that we never heard of among black people? But because today, Jolie Meriba Kopana and do what people do, that's it. We go to the doctors, but the drugs are to deal with the mental situations. It doesn't help us at all. Marriage is not between Joseph and Maria in African culture. It's bringing together of not only two families, as we say today. One person comes, minimum 8 families that you should be able to count to talk about. When we say our direto is tagazelo, it's not praise singing. There is history there of who you are. There is your genealogy, yoba uzalwa ngobani. That helps even umntu ofuna ukushela understand oba okay uthe khumalo. Sometimes you don't even start the conversation because njengoba as introducer or a introducer, you're already picking up who she is, where she comes from, her people, her cultures, and so on. Now when I was growing up, the heir to the throne, Yabuhoshi, is not raised in the family where they are born. They don't grow up knowing that Nakitloba Hoshi. But I want to challenge our traditional leaders. Are we raising future princes and princesses in the same way of our ancients today? Or are we raising boys who at 9 years old already knows no, but even saying it in English with a twang? Are we raising, because there are no future leaders. The future is being decided today. Things that you are going to do today with your body are going to be the reality of someone 20 years to come. Today, re tsamaya le bo malume, le bo papa, le bo mama rona to the courts, re lo signa as witnesses. They are really just there as a token. They are not involved. They don't make decisions. They don't even, for the most part, know where this boy or this girl you are marrying comes from. I don't want to just say what is going wrong. The reason I'm listing all these things is that we need our traditional leaders to not wait to be invited into our lives. Re batho ba dikgoši. We are your people. We live on your land. Re batho ba thobele. Ene thobele. Ba re shango la sha thobele di molano. Na ya a ka hloka thobele ke mojano in every way possible. So we need you. We need you to not be invited into your role because it is your birthright. And it is your role and responsibility to ensure, re bana ba lena, you are supposed to lead us. We should not be dependent on departments that fix symptoms without dealing with what the problem is. The courts now allow for baby mama. Baby mama can sue your mother abuti if you are not paying pap geld. Mara, your mother has no choice. She can't say anything about that child for whom she can be sued. She can't even say, I think it's best if I take the child and raise this child. Many of us grew up under apartheid. Our parents, the father was either working somewhere in the cities when your mother was back at home. Sometimes even the mother was working or learning or something, but the elders took charge. Even when there was divorce, the grandparents played a big role of ensuring that the child is growing up with both the mother and the father's side of the family. Education, key education ya rena e. In the last 30 years, one of the things that I witnessed was families receiving letters that encouraged, in fact, demanded that even at home you must speak to your children in English. That was a crime. It created an intergenerational gap that we are dealing with today. The grandmother stopped storytelling. Oral history stopped. The family coming together to sit stopped because we all had English things to do. Children did not even understand what grandmother was saying. They couldn't share indigenous food with us because, hey, what is that? The students, I don't know about the students here at UNISA, but in universities, students survive on noodles. They learn for years, come home, and then they are sick, and then when they die, because because you don't understand that for years, this person was consuming things that were keeping them able to learn and study, but the body was dying, aging, and being killed. We need to reclaim the history of our heroes' land. We must teach our children that before there was Mzabalazo and politicians and political parties, there were Amakosi. They fought hard against colonialism. They were given bad names. They hunted them like animals. When they killed Hintsa, they made sure they take intloko yakhe to prove to the king, to the queen there in England that we killed that one. That was the biggest problem. Here is his head. To this day, Inkumkani yethu Hintsa has not been buried yet. We don't know where his head is. And we are saying nothing about that. We must tell them about Sikukune, these young people. They need to understand why Bapedi, Banna Bapedi Bapara de killed the Keteje Lager, Jama Britain, because Sikukune conquered, took their skirts, wore them, and went home to dance, to prove, to show that yes, we will not succumb to the British. Mara today, Habari Apar. Do the children of Bapedi understand the significance of that skirt, Sabelungu? Remind them of Mantatis. We've always had female leadership. Remind them also the history that the colonizer tried to distort her name and her royalty. They said many things about her. They said she breastfeeds her soldiers herself. She drinks blood because she's a witch. And we grew up believing these things. I remember in high school, when we learned about our kings, all we saw, I used to think, Xhosa kings, they are fat people. Zulu kings, they are fat. All they do is drink, eat meat, get drunk, and stab each other. We are not changing those narratives to our young people today. We must heal the granddaughters and daughters of the women that we banished and burned as witches during apartheid, when what was their crime was that they were intelligent, they were good in business, and they were doing things that some people became jealous and used the word witchcraft because we had that act that could very easily accuse our people of witchcraft, and it could be easy to do that. Some of them, they have gifts today. They are called to heal, but they are ashamed. They are scared. They are still traumatized because you burnt their grandmothers. We need to take it upon ourselves in our communities to have rites of passage that heal the wounds of apartheid, and even where we ourselves were tools that were used against our own people and ourselves. Our villages are sitting on minerals worth billions. In Limpopo today, any German company can just arrive anywhere in the country. They find this boy or this girl or that person needs money, but for 50 rand, get us that tree. That tree can be a cycad tree that is thousands of years old, and that person will be given 50 rand. When the Germans live there, they are going to make millions from the products they will produce from that cycad. It's an ancient tree that is said to be one of the oldest groups of seed plants, dating back about 280 million years. South Africa has 38 of the world's 351 cycad species. We've got to learn what is under the soil in our villages. Are there any minerals? Even sand is a mineral. Eh? Yes. We've got to take ownership of those. But first we need to know, are we the owners of the minerals in our land? The Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries conducted a study and recognized that the Khoisan and San communities are traditional knowledge holders of the rooibos. Did you know that? They negotiated. It lasted about 9 years. But the final agreement was reached, and the agreement was signed in November 2019 by the SA Rooibos Council, National Khoi and San Council. This declared that the farm gate price, the price that is paid by processors to the farmers for unprocessed rooibos, dry tea, fermented rooibos, before it's made into any products. To this day, the Khoi communities receives 12 million a year from rooibos. What are you sitting on in your village, Kgoshi ya rena. That could be the money that you can use to dictate even research, because research that is coming from institutions, even such as this one, when it's not your own, it's extracted, then it goes back to the institution and it does what the institution intended to do with it. But our indigenous knowledge systems need for us to start doing research that comes from the Kgoshi tša rena, ka tšhelete ya rena, because we've got the plants, the animals, and the trees. They are selling rhino horns in China from horns that are coming from the animals in your lands. And we are not making any cent from that. We need to start taking our money back from the colonizer. We need to deal with cultural distortion, media misrepresentation. TikTok is like China. When you go to China, TikTok shows banabako China people doing science, technology, agriculture, and cultural things. In South Africa, we know what we are dealing with. I recently witnessed a traffic officer that was being randomly interviewed. It's trending, that video. How do you feel about being a mother? And she literally just said, I think I'm a very bad mother because my children have nothing good to say about me. And if my children think I'm bad, then there must be something wrong with me. We need to redefine motherhood, womanhood, from our own cultures and our own indigenous knowledge systems. We need to take back the placentas of our children and the bodies of women, because there's a lot of money in that cord blood that is in the exchange between mother and child for 9 months. But because birth, education, and parenting of our children has been taken away from us, we don't even know that there's a multi-million-dollar industry that is dependent on our wombs, our placentas, and the blood that comes from our bodies. You have to stand up with us as the Kgoshi tša rona to claim our bodies back. We are suffering, we are struggling, we take pills so that we can function in the boardrooms where we work while we juggle being a wife. Tshwantse ke be sexy, tshwantse ke be very good in emsebenzini, tshwantse ke be very good mother, tshwantse nje le dichomi, le bo malume, le bo mangwane. Everybody is taking something, and we are not talking about the mental state of our women today. Ke a leboha.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mahadeb. Thanks. And then Tabisang, the speech can be shared widely. Okay. I received the speech that Her Majesty the Queen made. I have a copy, so for public sharing. And this is broadcasted live on YouTube, so anyone can later, you just go and search a Lekgotla on African traditional leadership, the law and democracy, and then you are able to watch everything that has happened, and it'll stay there forever and ever. Thanks to my colleagues. Tembisile Mahu, Sizwe Koza. Yes, not Ngosi. I don't know where Ngosi came from. But let me just shift the blame and say somebody there at printing must have messed things up. And then my sister, Mahadebe, thank you so much. Colleagues, I see we are doing very well in terms of time. And then, in fact, we are actually done with the program. This was the last speaker. And then the person, yes, indeed, we are done. Don't be surprised. We are done. This was the last but not least speaker. The person that was supposed to do a vote of thanks and closing remarks is not here. There's a bereavement at home. One of our colleagues, there's a bereavement at home, and we wish her all the best. But then on that parting shot, number one, please come and study with the University of South Africa. And then on that note, please also come and study with the TM school, which is within the University of South Africa. And do not believe these things that you hear that are negative about UNISA in the media. I studied through this university. All my degrees are from this university. I don't know, I turned out well. I like to believe. Tembisile has never lost a case as a lawyer, because now you hear people say, hey, UNISA lawyer. Hey, UNISA lawyer this time. There's no such. Tembisile at UNISA, practicing law at UNISA, never lost a case. And we've got good stories to tell. When you came in here, you saw the former president, may his soul rest in peace, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, studied at UNISA. The current president studied at UNISA. So these things that you hear about UNISA, hey, UNISA lawyer will leave you hanging. No, there's no. They just say agree. You agree to things. No, it's not true. And all of this work, show me today, all universities are talking about the G20. At this moment, everyone is talking about the G20. What are we talking about? The G20 is there, it features, but we are talking about the landowners. The landowners. And that's what we do. So please come and study with us, because if you don't do that, then I would not be standing here, because you are the main stakeholder. And don't be giving, as parents, encourage your children to study. There's NSFAS, and they'll fund their studies. So it's no longer a question of, no, I'm underprivileged, I can't pay, I can't do this, I can't do that. And the good thing about UNISA, even for those that are working, UNISA allows that. Remember, this is the platform of UNISA, so I'm allowed to give UNISA, because this is my employer. We look like this because of UNISA. And then you, all of you being here, you are guests. You are not my guests. You are not my guests. You are guests of UNISA. So UNISA is your main host. And UNISA is not a person that you can point and say, hey, there. No, it's an entity. And it should live on providing education that is credible, providing education that is pertinent to our times. And then I would like to think that I've done you justice in terms of being your program director. And then where I've done any wrong in terms of protocols, in terms of anything that I've said, I ask for forgiveness. As soon as you get out of the UNISA gates, just forget about everything that I've said that is wrong. Remember the good. And then outside, my colleagues are going to help you in terms of what is outside. Remember, if you are a guest in this family, you don't just leave. Even at funerals, you don't just leave. There's somebody that stands there and say, no, there's water. At home, when you get there, you must wash your hands. But no, here, we don't have water here. It's food. There's food outside. Yeah, there's food outside. It's not water. The water is, we've been giving you water the whole day. So there's food outside, and I hope you enjoy it. And then hopefully, through the support of management, through the support of UNISA, we are able to host this event next year. And to Maroshiaka, you just go back to where you were seated, and that's where you'll be served, Khoshirati. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, Makade, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Are you going to give me that shoulder? You said